Well, hello, everybody. Howdy, howdy. This is Dr. Matt Dorsey, aka the CHOQTOR, also known as your friendly neighborhood CHOQ Chief Scientific Officer, et cetera, Doctor of Acupuncture and Chinese Medicine, clinical nutrition geek, herb geek, whatever you want to call me. And how is everybody doing today? Welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. We got a couple comments here. Hi, Dr. Matt. What products do you recommend for detox and how much CHOQ Armor can I take daily? Yeah, well, so actually, yes, CHOQ Armor, you can take the standard dose is 2, but the maximum dose is 6 capsules per day for CHOQ Armor. And for detoxification, CHOQ Armor is actually helpful. Quercetin, which we have a special, very high absorption quercetin in here called Quercifit, which gives you 20 times as much absorbed as regular quercetin. Quercetin does help with detoxification. And it does actually support glutathione synthesis. But of course, our chief detox product, which is going to be re-released in a couple of months, is Apex Glutathione. So this is the one you want to make sure that when it comes out, probably closer to Christmas, make sure you get on this one. If you, I mean, it's possible you already have some from when it was still being sold, but yeah, the new version of Apex is going to be awesome. We did put some organic milk thistle, as well as some special ginkgo phytosome 3x absorption ginkgo extract. So it's going to have some cool properties for extra properties for focus. And then of course that milk thistle is great because it also works on glutathione. So yeah. Also Ali, as far as detoxification goes, it's important to know that Shilajit is also an excellent detoxifier. This guy right here, because the fulvic acid, which our Shilajit is lab analyzed, which most of them are not. Ours is lab analyzed to contain usually around 40-something% fulvic acid. The labs I've seen are usually in the 40s, I believe. Some of them might be upwards of 50, but I believe they're in the 40s typically. And the fulvic acid in Shilajit does also enhance detoxification. It's funny when I put this, it looks like the bottle is my head for a second. I put it in front of my head so the camera knows to focus on this and not my head. It's on autofocus. But yeah. And Janny, as far as I know, I don't know if we're going to be changing the price of Apex or not. It won't be any more, but I think it'll be around the same as it was. Hey, Laura, welcome, welcome. What's up, Stay Boosted? How goes it? Getting you boost on? We are working on, just as of last week, we decided to work on a brand new product that's going to be, I can't tell you what it is yet. I don't have permission to do that, but I'm super excited about it. And it's going to be, I'll just put it this way, it's going to be very intense. It's going to be a very intense, awesome, potent, probably the strongest thing CHOQ will make. So I just started laying the foundation, doing the groundwork for this new product, and it is a hell of a lot of fun. I love being a formulator. And then we actually did just put an order in for another new product that we're in development that will be out in a couple of months. But this one that I'm putting together right now, I'm working with the CHOQ team on, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah. So I will, I'll talk with them and see if they're comfortable me, giving more of an idea of what it is or not. I don't want to assume that yet, but we'll just say it's going to be awesome and it's going to be very, very potent. That's all I can say about it for right now. But it will make it'll be almost like the equivalent of 2 or 3 products in one as far as how powerful it is. Yeah. But yeah. So let's see what else we got in here. All right, Danny is fasting, and you're taking the Shilajit on the fast. Cool. Glad that's helping for you. Very cool. Let's see who else we got here. Yeah, Muhammad, welcome back. Welcome back. Let's see who else we got. Jonathan, seeing definitely some familiar faces here. So, all right. Well, are you guys ready for our segment here? I need to come up with a clever name for it, where I read about electromagnetic frequencies. This is, again, we're just reading little by little, slowly through the book, The Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs here. And so this is really interesting. He claims that every cell in your body can feel EMFs. This is awesome. You guys are going to dig this. The evidence is getting stronger. Not only does the human body run on electricity and magnetism, it turns out that every cell in your body has antennas to sense the electromagnetic environment around you. In a presentation given at the Hebrew University Medical School in January 2017, researcher Ronnie Seeger, MD, PhD, explained that humans have the same kind of cryptochrome proteins, special kind of protein, in every single one of their cells that other animals use to detect magnetism. This has been confirmed by many human experiments. So yeah, what is up with these? Now, I'm not an expert on cryptochrome proteins, but I did try to look a couple things up here, and yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Let's take a little trip down the research land. So magnetic sensing, it's like a sensory organ, right? Magnetic sensing is a type of sensory perception that has long captivated the human imagination. There are many, many different animals, as we've talked before, that are all known to do this. Turtles, bees, newts, fruit flies. And apparently this cryptochrome protein is the proof that we can, in fact, directly detect magnetic fields. Also, real quick, I'm wondering if we got retrograded. It said that the viewer count went down to 1 all of a sudden. So if you guys can hear this, I want to make sure that this is still transmitting. If you guys can hear me, definitely make sure that you say something in the chat really fast. YouTube's doing some weird stuff here. So that whole viewer count's kind of weird. Yeah. Anyway, so cryptochrome proteins. Yeah. While Seeger is trying to pinpoint exactly what parts of the human cells act and intended to detect EMFs, he's demonstrated that magnetic fields as low as 1.5 milligauss, which is over 1,000 times lower than the FCC safety limit, and RF fields can activate specific pathways inside the human body. Cool. All right. All right. We got a couple folks. All right, cool. Well, hopefully YouTube is at least semi-functional. Very low magnetic fields have been found to activate a pathway called NADPH oxidase, which is considered a major cause of certain things that I can't talk about. So basically that have to do with heart function and also mitochondrial function, interestingly enough. Now, here's another one. Your body, oh, wow. Yeah, we're glitching out a little bit. Let's see. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. My screen was glitching out. Every cell in your body gets slapped by EMFs in multiple pathways or in multiple ways. So what's this about? All right. EMFs cause DNA damage. The belief that microwaves cannot cause bond breaking in chromosomes or DNA or damage tissue more generally is quite inaccurate. Robert Kane, PhD, former research scientist for Motorola. So a research scientist with a PhD who used to work for Motorola says that the belief that microwaves can't break DNA or damage DNA or tissues is totally inaccurate. So yes, our cells do use electromagnetism to communicate with each other. Yes, they certainly do. And have you guys ever heard of something called the phantom DNA effect? I'd be shocked if any of you guys did, because hardly anybody's ever heard about this. This is some crazy stuff, though, and I think you guys would dig it. Phantom DNA effect. Let me see if I can find a good article, the one that I originally found it in, so you guys can check this out later, or DNA phantom effect. So I think that, yeah, here's one that might be good. All right, I'm going to try to summarize this for you. This is one of the craziest experiments I've ever heard of. It's a little bit complicated, but bear with me for a second. It's gonna blow your mind. Okay, so supposedly this research was done in the 90s in Russia, and they had this machine. And the machine, I believe, is called a laser correlation spectrometer. And essentially, what happens is they would have, like, let's say they'd have like a little vial of liquid with little bits of DNA or tissue, right? Tissue with DNA inside the vial, and they would shine a laser through it, right? And the way the laser wavelengths would interact with the material inside the vial, the tissue sample, there would be a photosensitive plate over here. So the laser basically goes through the sample, passes through it, and then hits this plate. And based on the way the laser hits the plate and interacts with the tissue sample, you would be able to actually tell different things about the DNA. You could read it in different ways. And apparently there's ways that you can also alter it as well. Now, so here's the crazy part. When they took the tissue sample out of the machine and then they just did the laser shining through nothing, just empty space, right? They started to realize that they weren't getting a blank baseline reading, right? So for example, if you shine a laser through nothing, there should be nothing in the way, right? It was a vacuum chamber, no matter, not even air in this chamber. And instead they were getting something different. So originally they thought their machine was broken. They're like, okay, obviously there's something wrong with our machine. They played around with it. They probably got a different one, I think. I don't know. I don't remember the exact story. But long story short, they figured out the machine's not broken. So they tried to see if they could produce this effect with other things that didn't have DNA in them, right? Like just pure metal or just whatever it was, right? And it didn't work. So essentially, anything with DNA in it was leaving a residue in that space, even after all the matter was taken out of it. And that residue could be interacted with via laser light. So this is called the DNA phantom effect or phantom DNA effect. Heard it called both, but I guess DNA phantom effect. So perhaps that's the better way. I think those two words are reversed. So DNA phantom effect. So what does this mean? Well, what they theorize is DNA has a special property that other kinds of matter don't. And it can do something that nothing else can. What it can do is it can basically interact with another level of reality that they call the space-time substructure, almost like another dimensional level of reality. And that can be measured using coherent light, using laser light, right? So that's pretty mind-blowing. I think that we're probably going to figure out one day that DNA works completely differently than we thought. And in fact, there's huge mysteries still in genetics. Rupert Sheldrake talks about this, where they can't figure out genes for everything yet. So for example, people think that we've got it all figured out, that we figured out exactly how the genome works, and that every single trait, the shape and function of every single part of every single organism has been figured out and mapped perfectly. That has not happened. And there are examples where the complexity of the DNA is not enough to account for the complexity of the actual phenotype of the organism. So what could be happening is that DNA is acting as an antenna, where it's actually taking up information from perhaps this quantum substructure level of reality, and that biology has to interact electromagnetically with this deeper level of reality. So how's that for some mind-blowing information? Yeah. But long story short, all of us weirdos who, like to do things like earthing and grounding and like to be around stones and, believe in energy. I believe that probably it's not going to be that much longer until a lot of what we sense is going to be completely understood on a scientific level. And science just has not caught up with a lot of this stuff. So, yeah. So what do you guys think about that? Did it blow your mind? Let me know in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, YouTube is definitely being weird today. It's like not showing me all your chats. Huh. Strange. Let's see here. Something weird's going on. Yeah, I don't know. Try to if you guys can, throw a few chats out really fast, because it hasn't shown me any chats in a while. I feel like maybe we got retrograded. I don't know. So if you guys just type some random stuff just to see if the chats are still coming through. Oh yeah, we got a few things. Got a couple came in. Okay, well, we'll see. Anyway, let me know if stuff's glitching out. Stuff has been glitching out like crazy. So yeah. So what else? Well, Now, remember, by the way, this book was written when 3G was the biggest thing, right? So you also have to wonder, I've got to see what this guy's up to in terms of what he's talking about with respect to the 5G deal. Yeah. Yeah. No, we haven't had any problems with YouTube getting mad at us. Thank God. No, we've been totally fine. Switching gears here, and obviously feel free if you guys have questions about CHOQ products, throw them at me. This is Ask the CHOQTOR after all. But I came across a Green Med info. You guys know I like to check out Green Med info before the show to see if there's anything interesting I can find for you guys. Obviously, that's on topics I'm allowed to talk about. And this guy right here, wheat, 200 clinically confirmed reasons not to eat it. This might be something that I enjoy. Didn't get a chance to read the whole thing, but there are a ton of different papers cited by this, and it reminded me of this guy that I wrote a while back. Simplifying Gluten Sensitivity, A Return to Sanity. This is a cool one that I wrote last year that I really enjoyed. And let me link to this for you guys really fast. I'm curious, how many of you guys are gluten-free? And is that something that, obviously not everybody has to be gluten-free. But I'm curious what you guys think of the gluten-free thing. I know some people think the whole thing's just BS. Other people are really into it. I'll tell you my personal experience before I go into any of the technical stuff. When I went gluten-free, it was completely life-changing. And that was about 4 years ago. Was it 4 or 5? I think it was 4 years ago. Might have been 4.5. Anyway, and it was absolutely life-changing. And I will admit, I also went dairy-free at the same time. And then I did later on try to reintroduce each one of them and felt absolutely horrifically bad when I did it. So if you're one of the many people who has what they call non-celiac wheat sensitivity, LOL, stay boosted, then yeah, it can be a real game changer. Yeah. So there's this false belief that celiac disease, which is like full-blown extreme sensitivity to gluten, where you're basically your whole digestive system, your GI tract is totally messed up. That's the only kind of gluten sensitivity, and that's not true. There's something called non-celiac wheat sensitivity. So if you guys are off of gluten and you're getting great results, and you talk to somebody who's like, oh, it's a bunch of BS, there's no science behind it, unless you have celiac disease or whatever, you might like to read this article and send it to them. I do get a bit perhaps technical in here, but what I will say is, if you just scan it or whatever, just look through it, you'll find some really good little tidbits in here. And I think at the end, I like some of the stuff that I got to say at the end here. So let's see here. We've made everything way too complicated, I think, so let's see here. We're all susceptible to the placebo effect, and the mind-body connection is indeed profoundly powerful. Unfortunately, we don't all have the ability to design a perfectly placebo-controlled study to find all of our food intolerances, and the various assay technologies that we have to diagnose these issues are clearly lacking, as too many people have fallen through the cracks. Huge numbers of people claim that a vegan diet is what saved their health, while equally huge number of people say that it nearly killed them. What percentage of the effects that food has on us is based on our beliefs, is based on placebo? Hard to say. In the real world, though, there is no blinding, as in double-blind studies. There's no blinding with food, right? So we have to just live with the fact that sometimes our attitudes about certain foods can change how they affect us. That being said, there's plenty of evidence that many people feel much better when they don't eat gluten. Is it all in their heads? For some of them, sure. But for millions of people with non-celiac gluten sensitivity or non-celiac wheat sensitivity, the positive effects of eliminating gluten have nothing to do with their beliefs. Rather, the scientific community has yet to discover all the mechanisms by which wheat can wreak havoc on the body. But you don't have to wait for science to explain why you feel a certain way when you eat a certain food. Just because the how hasn't been fully explained, that doesn't mean that your experiences of your own body aren't real. I've heard of a lot of situations where somebody will stop eating a certain kind of food. Maybe it's wheat or it's dairy or eggs or, whatever it could be, corn, could be a lot of different stuff, right? And then they'll feel better and they'll go to their doctor and their doctor will say, oh, well, let's test you or whatever. And if you don't have the, if the test doesn't show that it's bad for you, then keep eating it. And the person's like, okay. And then the test will say, oh, no, you're fine. Just keep eating it. No big deal. And then they'll start eating the food again and they'll feel horrible. And it's like, okay, well, perhaps you might want to speak to a different, get a second opinion from someone else, other practitioner, because we sometimes make this assumption that we have it all figured out, right? And we make everything so complicated where it's like we have to have this fancy test to tell you everything. And sometimes it's just as simple as, well, if it makes you feel bad, maybe don't eat it, There. Is it that big of a deal, right? So yeah, I think that your personal experience with food, your one-on-one relationship with what you eat and how your body reacts to it, you shouldn't be allow yourself to be gaslighted by someone else and told that your experience isn't real, right? If you have an experience, it's disrespectful for somebody to say, oh, no, that's not your experience. You're like, yes, that is my experience, And so sometimes your personal experience is the real gold standard there, of what actually matters. So Leanne is vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, celiac. All right, cool, nice. Well, I'm glad you found some answers. Sounds like you're doing well. Laura says, I bake sourdough and found my customers can eat my bread because I do slow fermentation. Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah, so it looks like the gluten is being broken down to some extent. So that's cool. Yeah, nice. Let's see. Ever since I started eating a 95% organic diet, my life has changed for the better. Nice. Stay boosted. I'm curious. Curious what kind of results you're getting from your 95% organic diet. And then of course there is the GMO issue with gluten and all that, and also with of course wheat being heavily sprayed with pesticides, glyphosate. So there's that as well. Speaking of which, let me plug our blog one more time. Actually, here, I do have pretty awesome blog here that is relevant to pesticides. Let me just find that for you guys really fast. How many of you guys have heard of this guy named Seralini who did research on glyphosate? It's pretty cool stuff. Really interesting story. All right, check this out. Check this out. Bam. So, this guy, Seralini, he did research, and he's done a bunch of research on glyphosate, which is the active compound in Roundup, right? Of course, we also know about that, that Dwayne Johnson's case against Monsanto, where he won a whole bunch of money, But yeah, so basically, with respect to CHOQ this out, I like that. That's funny. With respect to Seralini, he gave a very low dose of Roundup to rats for a couple of years. And by a low dose, I mean way, way, way less than the equivalent of what's allowed in humans. So a very low dose. And he found a lot of problems. So I go into great detail in that article there on all this stuff. So basically the amount that he gave these rats is, when you take into account milligrams per kilogram body weight, the amount he gave these rats was so low, it's 1/400,000th the amount that we're allowed to consume in the United States by law, right? So let me just put that in perspective. This is crazy. So basically 400,000 times less than what humans are allowed to have per day is what he gave these rats. And what happened to these rats? They had problems with their metabolism, with breaking down fat. They had problems with their antioxidant pathways being taxed, with cell death, with buildup of fat called steatosis, things that are similar to like fat buildup in the liver, lipotoxicity. They had excessive activation of their free radical scavenger systems like glutathione, because obviously we're dealing with, we're dealing with a lot of free radicals here, right? It was pretty nutty. And so remember, this is a 2-year study, right? So, and of course, two years, rat years, that's a lot. That's a huge chunk of a rat's life, right? But it's basically saying like, this is what's happening with humans. We're getting these low doses, but this is still way less than a lot of humans are getting. So pretty crazy stuff there. But yeah, definitely a really cool article. Check that one out. Really interesting stuff. But yeah, your gluten-free-ish sourdough, Laura, sounds delicious. Sounds awesome. I don't really eat even gluten-free bread just because, bread's delicious and all, but, I just not part of a lot of the gluten-free breads I'm not into, but if, your sourdough, if all the gluten's been processed out, maybe I'd consider it. Yeah. But, yeah, just not my jam anymore, Yeah. All right. Well, let's see here. So Muhammad's asking about the DNA phantom effect. What do you recommend to eat, fruit or vegetable or CHOQ products to strengthen DNA/genes? Well, that's a good question, Muhammad. So I think one of the number one things is to have good antioxidants, right? As we know, electromagnetic fields, the bad kind, not the kind that are natural, produced by the body, but the electromagnetic fields, the toxic kind that we're swimming in, they, as we've said many times in the show, what they do is they actually produce a lot of free radicals in the body. And those free radicals can cause issues with genes, with cells, right? With cellular replication, with gene integrity. And so it's all about the antioxidants. So definitely, yes, of course, I do recommend eating lots of fruits and vegetables. Absolutely. And which fruits and vegetables? Well, if your fruit or vegetable happens to have a really nice dark pigment to it, best example of that out of really everything is wild blueberries. Regular blueberries are okay, but wild blueberries much, much better. One of the most potent antioxidants you can find, right? But yeah, a lot of different berries, those pigments tends to be really, really potent antioxidants. Yeah, so as far as CHOQ products go, I mean, most of the CHOQ product, most every CHOQ product to some extent probably has some antioxidant capacity, but I will say specifically, absolutely, Armor absolutely does. Of course, you've got the quercetin, you got the astragalus in there, Action 2.0, very, very much so. Got rhodiola in there. You've got the capros, which is an excellent antioxidant. Vitamin B12, which helps your body synthesize the antioxidant glutathione. You've got daily, which of course, as we talked about before, daily, which contains shilajit. Shilajit's excellent antioxidant. And the mother of all of them, again, as I'm always talking about, glutathione. So really, it's all about the antioxidants. Yeah. That's what protects our body from so many different toxic insults like electromagnetic fields is antioxidants. And yeah, so I would say also earthing, so let's pull up that earthing blog because, Muhammad, what's going on whenever you're actually creating electrical contact with the earth by standing barefoot or using an earthing device, right? Where you have a rod going into the ground or you're using the ground plug if you test it properly. What's happening there? Well, so what do free radicals do? Free radicals, they are stealing electrons from other molecules around them, right? They have this sort of need to pull electrons away. And what does that do? Well, that actually can cause them to become dysfunctional. And so, and in fact, your immune system uses free radicals as weapons. Your macrophages do what's called respiratory bursts. They basically can, if they find a critter they don't like, they can basically just do this burst of free radicals, and they can degrade it and just kill it right there, right? So free radicals are very, very toxic on a cellular level. So what's happening when you make electrical contact with the Earth? Well, there's actually, the Earth has a negative charge. There are actually ample amounts of free electrons inside the Earth that can flow into your body. And those free electrons will then quench the free radicals, because the free radicals, all they really want is electrons. There's tons of them in the Earth. So remember, when you make electrical contact with the Earth, those electrons are flowing into your body and they're neutralizing those free radicals. So at that point, what does that do? Well, it basically means that your body doesn't have to make as many antioxidants anymore. You know, it takes the load off, right? And so at that point, it's going to be easier for your body to keep up with the demand of antioxidant manufacturing. And actually, you know what? I just realized it's been half an hour. Let's give away a product here. Let's do it. So, yeah. And yeah, it looks like we got a few people drop off. I don't know. We got weird fluctuations here. Perhaps those people are new to the show and don't know that we're about to give away something here. But yeah, let's do prize number 1. You guys know the drill, but in case you're new, give me a number between 1 and 100. And then whoever's closest to this randomly generated number will win one of any CHOQ product. And remember, guys, you just get one entry. And try to get it in quickly if you can, ideally. Yeah, and while you're doing that, let me, what was that other blog I was going to show you guys? Oh, the earthing one, that's right. Let me just pull that up for you guys. One of my favorites. All right, everybody got their entries in here? Okay. All right, I'm going to call it. All right. Danny B is the last one. Okay. The number is 87. Eswana has 92. Eswana, are you the winner? I think you might be. Yeah. Eswana, you are our official winner of prize number 1. Congratulations, Eswana. So I think you might have won before, right? Didn't you? So congratulations. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Email CHOQ@CHOQ.com and let them know which prize you want. Yeah, that's awesome. So let's see here. And yeah, stay tuned. In just a couple minutes, we will give away prize number 2. So as one, this is your 3rd time to win. Wow, nice. That's awesome. Actually, I'm gonna switch it up here. It was 87 was the number. I'm gonna switch it up here, and let's see. Yeah, Laura, I didn't see anything from you. Nothing came through. Here's another interesting article that you guys might dig. This is not even a full blog article. This is a little mini one that I did a while back. It's called How Big Tech is Leveraging the Pandemic. And yeah, Laura, none of your number did not come through. So sorry about that. But yeah, I'm looking here in the chat, and looks like nothing came through that you messaged. But yeah, so perhaps it got retrograded. If so, sorry about that. But yeah, how big tech is leveraging the pandemic. Probably not super new information for you guys, but yeah, it is really interesting that the way that things have gone, there has been a significant trend toward us not communicating in real life anymore. And yeah, I think that the folks who are making all these digital platforms really enjoy that. Yeah, dang. And Laura, did you send one? I'm just curious. I know we're in the chat. Did one come through? I'm just wondering if it went through on your end or what. But yeah, YouTube has been a little bit glitchy today. That's for sure. All right. And finally, let me give you guys the earthing one here. Yeah, YouTube is glitching out hardcore today. It's telling me that there are fewer viewers than there actually are. Like sometimes it'll just say there's like 4 viewers and then like 10 people will message. It's really weird. Yeah. And sorry, Laura, unfortunately, I have no way to get around that. I can only go based off of what it shows me there, and I have to call it at a certain time. So, but it's awesome that you guessed it. Yeah, YouTube is not functioning the way it should be at all today, and we are deep in the middle of the retrograde. This is for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'll just link one more of these guys here. That is if my internet even works. Looks like it's, yeah, we're getting pretty hardcore retrograde here. You were between Janny and Raffatel. Yeah, you didn't show up. Yeah, it never came through. So very sorry about that. All right. Yeah, here's the one, 5 benefits of earthing. Earthing is totally awesome. Yeah. Well, tell you what, I'm curious. Laura, have you won before? You know what? Let's just do this. Laura, I would like to give you prize number 2 today because you're great. One of our best regulars. And since you didn't win because of YouTube's technical malfunction, instead of doing a random number generator for prize number 2, we'll just give you prize number 2 today. So that means that you get a CHOQ t-shirt as well as a bag of cacao beans. How about that? How's that sound? That way we don't have to do a second drawing. And yeah, everybody's happy. So Laura, you are the official, I just decided, winner of prize number 2. Yeah, for sure. Why not? Why not? Everybody's a winner. Yeah, we're getting about to the end here, actually. Hope you guys find this stuff interesting. If there's any topics you guys want me to hit on next time or whatever, you know, feel free to leave a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that stuff, you know. Yeah, I kind of don't want to do the trivia just because then we're going to have some of the same people probably win each time based on how quickly they can look stuff up on the internet. And so I feel like the random number generator is probably a little bit more fair. The trivia, we could have, you know, the same people winning over and over again. But yeah. Yes, Laura, you're very welcome. Yeah, definitely holler at me in the comments if you have any questions, if there's any topics you guys want me to hit on. Thanks for being here, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, stay human.